My name is Ian Squires, and this is my backtesting project for Finance 551. My hypothesis, I wanted to test statistically whether or not global equity mutual funds would outperform the S&P 500 on average. And so I went to the fund screening tool in Bloomberg, and I pulled over 500 different mutual funds. And the criteria that I pulled them for was that they had to be located in the U.S., they had to be greater than 250 million in assets. I wanted to pull up the expense ratio so that way I can look at them and see how that kind of played into things, and also their returns for 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, and 10 year. And I also wanted to look at the S&P 500 returns for 1, 3, 5, and 10, and I wanted to compare them to see how global equity funds performed. I had heard once that a global equity fund with a low expense ratio that's passively managed provides enough diversification to where it's the only mutual fund that you need in your 401k, and on average they will outperform the S&P 500. So I ran the data on this, and I'm not 100% sure if what I pulled from the fund screening tool was correct, because it seems like some of these global funds might be in different, industries. For example, there's industry here, and then there's small cap, and there's large growth, and it's kind of like all over the place. I didn't really know how to use the fund screening tool, so this is the best that I could come up with. And I believe that doing the S&P 500 returns just straight down like this might have messed up the numbers, because when I ran my regression, I didn't get a coefficient for the S&P 500, and my t-stat was absolutely astronomical. My r-square was so very, very, very small that I think that this was not a really good fit to test. But I did this over several different years, from 1 year to 3 year, 5 year, and it still ended up with these crazy numbers. So I believe that the data might not, be a good fit. And I checked the different ways of testing it using difference of means, and still it kind of came out a little wacky. But what I did find out of this is that a lot of these guys do not perform very well, but there were some that consistently outperformed the S&P 500 by quite a good bit, because the 1 year return for the S&P 500 is 14%, and some of these guys got 23 to 36%, which is almost double, or if not more than double, and they still even outperformed it over 10 years. And the 10-year return for the S&P 500 is 10%, and these guys are getting 12 to 15. So I think there might be some evidence that global equities can possibly outperform the S&P 500 on average, but out of this data set, I don't think that that's going to, show that. And I think that this suggests that there's other ways that I could test this to possibly come to that result and kind of filter this criteria down just a little bit more. And that's the end of my project. Thank you for listening.